So basic design we'll do in the section, and then we are going to add in the flexion. So where the harness comes is, so normally, so you have seen some, so whenever we are, if you want to, when you click on any link or anything, so normally it will go to some new forms. Suppose in any web, if you go to any website or anywhere, so whenever we click on any link, so normally if we click on that link, again we will get some new form. So there maybe we need to submit the form. So after that again it will store in the database on all that thing happen. So there, so whenever, so we want to go to that new form, so there we will use this harness option. So normally direct forms means we will design in the section, and later we will add in the flow action, and then we are going to add in the flow diagram, right? So but, so this harness how we will do means, so we will create one section for harness, also we will create one section rule. So after that, that section we will call in the harness page. So then see, normally here two sections will create. So normally, so in the first section, for example, see, simple example I want to say means, see for example there is a login form is there. So let's take a Gmail form, or Gmail login form is there. So we normally, if you are a existing user means what you will do, so already a registered user means what you will do, you will enter some username and password, and you will log into the so particular form or anything. For example, so you are some new user, so you are new to that particular site, or new to that particular account, and you want to register to that account. So means like sign up, you want to sign up for that account. So at that, in those cases, so for this normal thing, so we used to use section page and flexion we will use. But whenever a new user enters and he want to register means, so here in this case, so we will use the harness rule. For example, we will click on some register link or some sign up link, so it will go to, again it will go to from new form. So there will again fill the so total form and submit it, it will save in the database. So whenever we are clicking on the link or anything, so at that time we will use the harness rule. So harness rule also, so before adding to the harness rule, so for that also we need to create a section rule. So similar to the flow action, so first of all we will create the section, and then we will add the section rule into the harness page. So simply saying, so normally while defining the harness we can say like this. So harness is the starting form of the application. So we can define harness like this. So harness is the starting form of the application, and harness can be used to create a new work object, means it will directly move to the new page. So harness can be used to create a, so using the harness also, so normally using the, when we run the flow, so automatically it will create a new work object, means it will go to some new form. So then later it will move to another, what are the sequence we have, so it will go to, it will follow the sequence based on the flow diagram. Similarly, so harness can also be used to create a new work object, and it also can be used to change the appearance of the work object. So normal appearance means, so where this option comes means, so we have seen, so while designing the subflows, so if you remember, so whenever, so at the time of designing the subflows, we have seen an option called harness option. So under that we have seen some type. So subflow means is all, it is also nothing but a screen flow. Under the screen flow drop down we have seen some option called tabbed screen flow, tree navigation screen flow, perform screen flow. So that also comes under harness only. So that option, if you remember or not, so in the screen flow, under the start shape properties, we used to have an option called harness option. I think already you used that option also. Under the start shape properties, there is an option called harness option. So there under the drop down, if you select the type as tabbed screen flow means, so it will totally change the appearance of the screen flow. So that is nothing but, so using the harness option we can also change the appearance of the work object. So that is the purpose of the harness. So we will see one example, so how to add this harness and all. And before that I will tell you about some introduction about the validations also. So how to apply the client side validation, server side validation, and how many types of validations are there, that one also I will tell you. So coming to the different types of validations, see basically, so here in Pega around we have 3 types of validations are there. 3 types of validations. So one of the first type, rule edit validate. So don't confuse with the names. First one is rule edit validate. Second one is rule object validate. And another type is, so another type is available under the declarative rules options. So that rule name is declare constraints. That is also one type of validation. See, you are saying that I'm following the order means here in Pega one rule is related to the another rule. That is the reason I am not following some order. So whenever there is a requirement, so I will discuss about that particular rule. So because every rule will be related to some other rule here. So if you want to use any particular rule means somewhere it will be related to that some other rule here. So that is the reason, so I cannot follow the order in Pega. So but I will cover all those things. So we'll have one session, we will discuss what are the sessions left in the content and all. So first of all let me complete so in my own order. So later we will see so what are the things left in the content. Okay, so under the different types of validations we have, the first one is rule edit validate, rule object validate, and declare constraints. So constraints is also actually one type of validation. So I will tell you what are the difference. So coming to the rule edit validate, actually this option, so where this option and where this validation we can add means, see whenever we are creating a manual property, simple in first of all let me, so the rule edit validate, using this rule edit validate we can apply or we can define validation on single property. So using the rule edit validate, so we can define validation for a single property. So that single property means, see whenever we create any property, at the property level itself we can define the validation. So that comes under the rule edit validate. So when we open the property, there is one option called advanced tab is there. So in the property page itself, one second, it is opening. See, so let's take any property. See, for every property there is a one tab called advanced tab will be there. So in the advanced tab there is an option called validate option. So this validate is nothing but a rule edit validate. So actually under the rule edit validate option, so here the rule edit validate we can add in 2 ways. So that is 2 ways, or we can define our own scripts. So we can define our own JavaScript, and also there will be predefined scripts also available. So not only own JavaScript, so there are also some predefined source codes are also available. Either if the requirement is matching the what are the predefined source codes, we can use the predefined source codes, or somewhere suppose if the predefined source codes are not matching our scenario, we can go with the own JavaScript. So there is a scope to add. Normally the predefined scripting is, so what are the predefined validations we have in the drop down, so we can, so all the maximum, so those are so useful, so those are sufficient, I mean to say. So there will not be any requirement to add the own scripting. So but in the rule edit validate option, so there is a scope to add the own JavaScript also. So that one I will show you how. See here, when we click on this down arrow, so here we can find so many types, so many predefined scriptings are available, like is blank. So here so many you will get: is integer, is letter or digit, non-negative, decimal, valid, operator ID. And again if you scroll down, like SSN number starts with letter, TIN number, user edit, US phone number, US zip code, like validate language, validate filter, operator ID, like so many, validate phone number, validate email ID. So like that, so many predefined source codes are available. If any case, for example, the available source codes are not matching your scenario means, so at that time you can go with the new one. So there will, if you click on open option, so first of all we have to enter some name here, or else directly click on this open tab. It will open a scripting page. 1 second. So okay, when I click on that open tab, it will ask you to enter the validation name, edit validate name, click on create option. So here we can enter our own Java source code. So normally, so they will copy paste from Google. So in any case, so there is a scope to add the own source code also, or else if the whatever the requirement is so matching the, so your scenario means, either you can select from the drop down also. There will be some predefined codes also available. If the predefined source code is not matching your scenario means, we can also define our own source code also. So once after saving the source code, again it will be saved under the validation drop down. From the drop down we can select the validation rule. So like that, in the rule edit validate, so there will be, so both ways are there, so both ways are possible. Either we can use the predefined source codes, or else we can also define our own Java source code also. So that comes under the rule edit validate. So this is one type of validation. So for example, if you are defining, so there will be some advantages, will be the disadvantages. So that is this, some other rules are also available. For example, if you are defining the rule edit validate and the same property if you want to use in different forms, so what happens? So that validation rule will be applied in so all the forms, right? For example, username is there or email address is there. So the email address, sorry, take username only. So for example, username is there. So username you are adding, so in some 2 or 3 forms you are using, like login form you are using, sign up form you are using. So maybe, so here the requirement may be so matching, so in the both the forms, so the username, so what are the validation you want to add, so it will be used in both the cases. For example, in any other property, for example if you take any other property, so if you want to use the same property in both the forms, but you don't want to add the same type of validation, so in one form you want some different type of validation, and in another form you want to add different type of validation. So then, so if you add the rule edit validate means, so it will not so match your condition. So whenever we want to use means rule edit validate. So for example, if you are using the same property in all the forms, so then we can go with the rule edit validate option. If you don't want to use this, so same validation for the property in all the forms, then there is some alternative called rule object validate. Once again, so there is alternative. So rule edit validate means simply saying if you are applying a validation for that property means, so that validation will be used in all the forms. So if you don't want that scenario means, then there is some alternative validation called rule object validate is there. So regarding this rule object validate, here we can define validations for multiple properties. Actually, using the rule object validate option, it can be defined for multiple properties in a single validation rule. So I will tell you how that one. So rule edit validate means at a time we will define only for single property, but here using the rule object validate, so at a time we can define for multiple properties. At a time we can define for multiple properties. Okay, that one how means I will tell you. Actually, so here this one we are defining under the property. Go to advanced tab. So here we are defining the validation. So but rule object validate option is available under the process category. So under the process category, there is one option called validate option. So there we can define our validation rule object validate. Or else, not only this, there is another alternative also. So in the flaction page, so already I told you while discussing about the flaction, I told you, so if you want to add the validations for your form section, what are the properties you have taken in the section, if you want to perform further actions, for more actions if you want to perform in the flaction also, there is one option called validation. So both is same only. So under the process category, what are the validate option, validation option we have, so that is also same. Under the flaction, whatever the validation option we have, that is also same only. So I will show you once. See here, once if we right click on new option, process category, there is option called validate option, and the same time under the flaction also. So under the user interface, if we go to any flaction, here also we'll have one tab called validation tab. So in every flaction we'll have an option called validation option. So here also, so directly, so while creating this validation rule, you can create from this option directly new process validate, or directly you can enter some name here. Click on open tab, so then also it will go to that page only. Enter any name. Click on create option. See here, while defining the rule object validate, what happens means, so this validation rule which we are adding is, it is specific to that page. Means see here, so normally we will design a section, right? So once after designing the section, we will design the flaction. So normally, for example, in a section we are having some 10 properties are there or 10 fields are there. For in the 10 fields, for 3 of the properties you want to define some validation. So what are the 10 properties you have? Among the 10 properties, for 3 properties you want to add some validation rule. So at that time what you will do, so we will go to, so I will create this thing, so I will directly go to that particular flaction, and what I will do, so same what I have done now. So go to the validation option, validation tab, open this tab, open this new tab, give some name and click on this create option. Then it will open this page. So once after creating that, it will open this page. So here, so for the 3 properties, first of all we will select our first property. So after that, so before that, so for this first property, so here we can define the expression. So I will tell you, so what are the functions available under the rule object validate. So either we can define our own validations or not, so that one I will tell you. So like this, so at a time, what here at a time in a single validation rule we can define for multiple properties. So but in the rule edit validate, what, so at a time we can define only for the single property, but in the rule object validate we can define the validation for multiple properties at a time. So and in the rule object validate so all the functions are predefined only, so we cannot define our own validation. So using the predefined functions we can build the expressions here. So using the what are the functions available, we can build our own expression using the rule object validate. So there will be so many functions will be there. I will show you the list of different functions. So delete this thing. See, so first of all we have to select the property, right? So there is a add option will be there. Now it will display when we click on this down arrow, so the condition will be if condition. So here we'll have a lot of functions will be there. So what are the, let's see, so date comparison, so expression evaluates to true, first date time relation, second date time, first number relation, second number, like number comparison, string comparison, not equal to, equals to, relation, first value, relation, second value. So like this so many functions will be there. So first of all what we have to, so whenever if you want to build an expression, first of all we need to select the required function. First of all, so what are the function required, so for your requirement, if you are comparing two strings means first you can select the particular function here. So then, so it will open the expression builder, or directly it will open the properties. So which properties you want to compare, so equals to, not equals to, so select and so like, so we can define the, so what are the message, so you can even add your own message. So what are the message you want to add, so we can add some message, or else so building the expressions means, so like this we can compare different strings or integers or date functions, anything. So I like that we can also build expressions also. For example, I will take a function called expression evaluates to true. So when I take this option, I will get an option to build the expression. See here, so when I click on this magnifier option, there is an option to build a expression. See here, for building the expression we'll have a lot of libraries will be there. So first of all what we have to do is, what are the requirement, so based on our requirement, so click on all option, then it will display all the libraries, so all the functions which we have. So these are all the functions. So based on whatever, so if you want to, so build an expression regarding year, so all these so many functions we have. So square, round, minimum, maximum, sum, when, so many functions will be there. So any type of validation we can add using these functions based on the requirement. Average, bound, integers, calculating positions. So like this, so many, so everything is pre-built here. So just we have to, so what are the function we want to select, so we can select the function. So from the list of functions, so we'll do one example also. Okay, so after that, so after selecting any function, so there is a parameters, so select your property name, so for which property we are building the function, click on insert option. There we can build the expression. So if we can use the whether it is validate or not. So if we not validate, it will throw some error message. So like this. So at present I did not take the correct property. So like this we can build the expressions. So our own expression we can build, and we can add for that property. So this is about the, so like this all the functions will be pre-built. So we cannot define our own, means so own scripting we cannot define. So everything is predefined here, functions and libraries. So just we have to select the required function, and so we have to map the data, select map the properties like comparing strings or comparing numbers. So or we can build our own expressions also. So that is about rule or object validate. So how the so here not the property, for example, so this validation is specific to that page only. So means, for example, in that particular section what are the properties you are using, that validation rule is applied only to that particular section. If you are using the same properties in the another section, means so there the validation rule will not be applied. So do you understand it? In the rule edit validate, what happens if you are using some property, means so throughout the application wherever you are using that property, so throughout the application, so the validation rule will be applied. But in the rule object validate, only to that particular specific page only, it's like specific section or specific flag action only the validation rule will be applied. If you are using the same property in another section, means so the validation rule will not be called, because we are separately calling the validation rule in the flag action rule. So the rule, how to call the rule object validate, they can ask. So how to call the rule object after defining the rule object validate, we have to call in the flag action rule. The rule object validate rule is called separately in the flag action rule. Then only that validation is applied to that particular properties in the section. What are the sections or what are the flag action we are using? And so normally in the previous version, if we take 6.2 version, in the 6.2 version, so there is a separate validation tab is not there actually. So in 6.2 version, if you take, means for validation there is no separate tab. Actually it is included directly under the action tab only. So there will be only action tab will be there in 6.2 version. So there is no validation tab in 6.2. It is only added in the 6.3 version. So if you take 6.2 version, that option is included in the action tab itself. So no, we don't have a separate validation tab in the 6.3. So only in the only from the 6.3 version we have a separate validation tab. In the 6.2 version, this validation option is included in the action tab itself. So just remember that point. So that is about the difference between the rule edit validate and rule object validate. So and there is another type of validation is there. So any doubts in this rule edit and rule object? So regarding the theory part, simply rule edit validate, so only at a time single property and throughout the application, so the validation applied for that property. So if you are using the same property in 3 or more number of forms, so in all the forms the validation rule will be applied. But in order to override that, if you don't want to use the same property, so that same validation for all the forms means, so we can define that same validation in the rule object validate. So then what happens, so it will be that validation rule will be applied to that specific page only. So it will not, so even if you are using the same property in the different form, it will not be applied in that particular flow action. So specifically we have to call the validation rule in the flow action rule in the, if you are using rule object validate. So here we in rule edit validate we can define our own source code also, but in rule object validate, so there is no scope, so only all the validation types, libraries and functions will be predefined here. So using the predefined libraries and functions, we can define the validation rule in the rule object validate. And there is one more validation rule is declare constraints. So it comes under decision category actually. Declare constraints. So declarative rules, so already I told you under the decision category we will have decision rules and declarative rules. Under the declare constraints also comes under the decision category only. So if we will have an option called constraints under the decision category. So it is called as a declarative rule. So constraints is called as a declarative rule. So once again I will tell you, so declarative rules means once any declarative rule is defined means no need to call them separately in any other rule. So once again I am telling about, so declarative rules means if you are defining any declarative rule means either it is so yesterday's session we discussed about declare expressions, right? So if you are defining an expression means, so we will not call that expression in any other rule later. So directly automatically when end user provide the inputs for properties, automatically that expression, whatever the expression we define on property, so automatically it will be calculated. Similarly constraints also comes under the declarative rules only. So here also what happens, for example if you are defining any validation for any property means throughout the application, so here also the same property if you are using in different forms means, so it will be automatically, so the validation will be called automatically. So but what is the difference between the declare rule edit? So in rule edit validate also we can define, so the same thing happens. So in rule edit validate if we define for any property means, so there also the property if you are using in multiple forms, the validation rule will be called. In the same way declare constraints also the validation rule will be so called, so wherever we are using that property. But in rule edit validate, so we are using only for single property, but in declare constraints, so here also we can define for multiple properties at a time, but we can differentiate with the rule object validate and declare constraints here. So the same functions and same libraries will have in declare constraints also. See when we open a declare constraint, so there also we'll have the same options, so same libraries will have, same functions will have, but only the difference between the rule object validate and declare constraints is, so here if you are defining a validation on property means, so throughout the application, so that validation will be called, but in this rule object validate only to that specific page. So that is the difference. So in both declare constraints and rule object validate we can define validations for multiple properties. So once again I will show you, if you go to the decision category, new decision, there is an option called constraints. So actually the options will be same. So what are the options we have in rule object validate? But the logic will, only the logic will be different. So when logic will be there, so I will open the rule, this one also. See here, so here directly we will select the property, then we will add the condition. So we will select the function, but in the constraints, so here in a different manner. So when something is true, require that something else has to be true, else add a message to the property. See here, if we select, so expressions will be same, all the expressions whatever, so all the functions whatever we have in the this rule object validate, same functions we'll have here also. So here also we can build the expression. So there is a using this button, here also we can build the expression, same libraries, so all will have same only. The only difference is, so when we compare between the rule object validate and declare constraints is, so once a validation is defined here means no need to call anywhere, and for this if you are defining validation for any property means then throughout the application, so that validation is applied for that property. But in rule object validate only it is specific to that particular page, there it is only specific to that particular page. So that is the difference between the constraints and the rule object validate. So like this, so these are the three different validations. So actually which, see how we will define the validations in Pega means, so where it is, so which type of validation is matching our scenario, so or matching the requirement, so we will go with such type of validation here. So we can choose any type, so based on the requirement, so either we can go with the rule edit validate, so rule object validate, or so this declare constraint. So all the three validations are used in the Pega. So based that one, so based on the scenario whatever we are using, so if it is, so the function is available in the rule object validate means, so we will go with this thing. Or if the predefined validation, so suppose easy way, suppose already if you want to match to compare two strings means, so already we have a easy function here. So in rule object validate we have some simple function. So instead of, if you don't want to use, and if you want to go with the rule or edit validate means, so there, so the process is very difficult, so we cannot go with the rule edit validate. So then what we'll do, so we'll go with the rule object validate only. So like that, so based on the requirement, so we have to see the available functions. So if it is matching, yeah, tell me, yes, tell me. Yeah, I will give, yeah, nothing I tell, so the same thing I am repeating now. So just the same thing I am telling. So whenever how to use the validations means, so we have to so based on the purpose and requirement in the application throughout the application, suppose if any case if you want to use rule object validate means, so we can apply that thing. So I will tell you, so I will apply all these things. So in the next session in practical, so using the examples I will use all these three types of validations. So today's session, one of the session, one guy is missing, means so he is unable to attend the session. So he told to only tell me the practicals and all. So two guys are missing, are unable to attend. So that is the reason I am telling only the theory part today. So tomorrow we will see, so both the harness and the validations. So in practical I will apply both these things. Okay. So tomorrow's session I will show the practicals on both. So how to use the rule edit validate, rule object validate, and constraints. So all these things, and I will apply on the harness rule. So using the harness rule I will apply the rule edit validate, means like client side validations will be there, server side validations. So in suppose if you want to, first of all in rule edit validate I will apply the client side validation, and using the rule object validate I will check the server side validation. So using constraints also I will check the server side validation. So like that I will take some examples and I will tell you in the tomorrow's session. So everyone is day after tomorrow is what? Friday, right? Friday. So Friday I will take the session. If tomorrow, okay, I will share the recording that one, because again Saturday Sunday will not have, right? So I will take the session on Friday also. If anybody miss means I will share the recording. Okay, so